Hello everyone and welcome to the LSI Summer Season Saturday tier for take 2 of the British Grand Prix. And look, a familiar face on your screen in the McLaren car. How about that? It is Gary M for the first time in a long time. Welcome back indeed. Jericho Willis in the meantime, 27.436, showed some amazing pace yesterday, along with the likes of Zingy and Sulkin up front by a distance, and they're looking to try and do the same thing. Gary goes for another lap. Sulkin looking to get redemption from yesterday, Egapro as well. Cravato trying to have a better race start to give themselves more chance in the race. And then we have Shinde Aru, who also raced yesterday, and Alzarat, who are also, and Sumbi, getting a second chance at glory. As Gary goes through the first sector, we'll see what they can do. Of course, the F1.5 EU2 champion a few seasons ago, I believe racing for, I wanted to say Alfa Romeo, but I don't think it was. It was against me. I just can't remember which team they were driving for. It was 1 point in the end, but it was a hard-fought battle, and I loved every moment of it. Welcome back. Jericho Willis, though, on the top step. Are they improving? No. Sulkin, however, is going to be doing so, watching on board the flying lap with the Norwegian, who had signs of pace a few times yesterday, but then just wasn't able to make the most of it, and used a bit too much tyres in the beginning phase. And it really cost them later on. Maggots and Beckett's turning that battery down, saving, and then braking a little bit. Back on the power once again. DRS, ERS. I say DRS. Straight line mode. As you can see, the front wing also down. And into Stowe corner. You'll save a decent amount of battery. And you get a final blast all the way to the line of chicane. They have ran out, but it will work out because you can coast through the corners and not lose too much time. Across the line for Sulkin, 2 minutes on the clock. That's a 27.257, the target to beat. Can Egapro fight back as they're on their outlap? We've got Fancy out on a lap as well. They're improving by 2 tenths. It wouldn't be enough to go for pole position, but they'll get closer to the 27s here, looking to be the third driver in the 27 lap time margin. Also, something that we haven't seen in, I don't think we saw it yesterday. We did see it from Cadillac yesterday with Sir Maxon driving for the team for the first time out on track, but Audi, once we go across the line with the Mercedes, Fancy does improve by half a second. The 27.794 is there. They are putting a threat on Egapro here. But we do see, I was just going to switch over to the Audi car as we get to see it for the first time out on track, but they have retired. And we won't get to see the Audi car until the start of the race. That is a hell of a shame. Egapro doing some drastic tyre warming techniques here. And now they open up that lap in the Aston Martin. Iconic to drive this car now. Over the years, they've done so for such a long time. They took a seat at Racing Point to move away from Ferrari, just so that they could secure the seat next season when it was going to be Aston Martin. And they've kept it ever since. Up through turn 5 on the throttle, using the battery, opening up nicely. Down the straight, moving slightly left, but not having to worry about the bumping that we used to see a few games ago. 24, I believe that was. Dancing their way through turn 7 and down the international straight. With 30% battery, 20% as they get to Cops Corner. They do have to downshift to keep the power up. They'll continue through Maggots and Beckett's, and there you can see they've now recharged a bit of battery, just going a bit slower, not using any through the later stages of the S's. And now on the exit of Chapel, they do blast it once again, but they've run out. That's capped out. They're going to lose some speed. They're pretty much, well, slowly accelerating, but somewhat stuck. Lifting off Rousseau corner and then back on to it. We don't get to see the braking and the throttle inputs, unfortunately, as we used to do. And across the line to Eager Pro. It is a 10th improvement, but no position. So close to Jericho Willis. That is qualifying done. I wasn't keeping an eye on the time. Sulkin will take it. Jericho Willis was not able to get there anymore. And it's Fancy directly behind in P4. Cravato in P5. Very rusty for me. I just was locked in on the lap, not looking where everybody else was going. Sunby, the final car to cross the line, and it's going to be not an improvement, but still some more experience to get down. PJ also returning for the first time as a reserve driver. Jericho Willis tries to better their result from a podium to a win, as they did so yesterday. The only two drivers that they were beaten by aren't on the grid today. Could this work out? Teammate blocked their pit box. I believe that's why they weren't able to go for improvements. Sulkin on pole position. Jericho Willis in P2 and Eager Pro in P3. This is the rest of the grid. And we'll be back in a bit for the race. Ready, hold, go! Who's going to get it into turn one? We're away once more in Silverstone. The Red Bull on the outside line will take it clear. Jericho Willis slots in behind, but it's a good launch from Fancy. Eager Pro will get back through. Mark Tunick is going to be on the attack as well. Oh, it looked like the two teammates were going to collide for a second, but it will not be the case. The Mercedes stays in front. Mark Tunick has to sit just behind. The second Red Bull in this race. Ruffer X on debut, looking to try and challenge with Cravato, who does make it through the first few corners without damage this time around. That's great to see. And nobody, far behind off the start. We do get to see the Audi car in this race for the first time. Welcome Audi to LSI. And a bit further behind, it's Gary M trying to have a look around the outside. They're turning on the battery. They're looking to the left. It's going to be tight. It's going to be very tight. But it's not going to be enough in the end. Could they go for a switch? No, they will not. They will stay there. Lovely job indeed. Out front, it's Sulkin in P1, and it's going to be Jericho Willis on the charge once more. Eager Pro gets a second opportunity at trying to go for victory as well, as they lost the train in the early stages, just like Sulkin did too. Fancy making their mark in LSI already. Mark Tunick trying to hold on. It's a defensive throw from Eager Pro. It looked like an attack on Jericho Willis, so both drivers ended up defending. It's brought Mark Tunick back into it as the group slowed up. And it's also Rufa X not very far away from this. They can do something. And for that matter, Gravato is also pretty close. They do have overtake mode enabled as they're within 1 second of the car ahead, whereas the Red Bull does not have so much. It's Lazera at the front of this train here, 2 seconds away from the car in front, so they won't be able to get that extra boost that they're hoping for. Everybody else will be charging behind and going for that move. A very wide berth from Sumby, who looks really to the hard inside line to get that move, but coming back is the Alpine on the following corner, and it's Gary M just watching as a spectator. They've got 2 cars to their left, and they're going to go on the inside line in through turn 8 down to turn 9, the famous corner. It's going to be side by side. What is the Alpine doing? They turned in on Gary, but it did not affect them. In the end, they'll be good to go. It's going to be side by side through Maggots and Beckett's, and that's contact inevitably. They just keep it in a straight line, and luckily for Sumby, they're still in this race. It's Jericho Willis going around the outside at Stowe Corner on Sulkin. They didn't exactly want to give that one up. They're going to go on the attack once more, but Jericho does secure the position. Will take the racing line and carry on, but have they used too much battery? Sulkin looks very ready to go once more. Are they going to go for the move into turn 1, as we saw so many times yesterday? Not that you would see that in previous eras of Formula 1, let alone racing, league racing. Oh, that was a close call from Egapro, who's putting the pressure on Sulkin. Sulkin has just lost that position. They've lost momentum. They've got mind games going on here, Egapro. They're trying to push their way through. They're also being pushed by the Mercedes, so they have to attack to defend. It's Sulkin on the inside line. It's a quad battle going on here, side by side, and it's still side by side between the Aston Martin and the Mercedes. The outside line is to the Mercedes. The soft tyre is to the Mercedes. I did not realise that. Absolutely unbelievable. The only driver to be on the soft tyre. And that was a close call, but Eagle finds his way on the inside of Jericho Willis at Copse Corner, and it looked a lot less dramatic than it really should have been. Incredible stuff that we're seeing in Silverstone. It's just becoming normal. Straight line mode once more, and the boost into Stowe Corner. A switch as Egapro makes the move, or loses the position, I should say, as it's Jericho Willis who makes the move. And I thought it was Fancy also going for a move. That's a yellow. Sumby has an issue, unfortunately. PJ did fall down the order off the start. They've had to go for a new front wing and set of tyres in this race. Lap 4 out of 26 as we continue to open this Grand Prix. Sulkin hasn't lost the pack as they did, because they have been the pack. They are the leader of this race. Jericho Willis is very much at the front once more, but they're not able to run away. Once you pass, you get repassed. It's just inevitable. And not only that, these 3 drivers up front here, they've had a Grand Prix distance from yesterday, fresh in their mind to correct any mistakes that they made and try and make it a flawless Grand Prix. That's going to make it super difficult for Fancy and Mark Tunick, who's also in this train. In the meantime, we've seen Ruffer-X, who did make that move on Gravato, or they stay ahead of Gravato. Gravato is in a battle with them. Gary M breaks away from Shinde and Alzera. Of course, it was Sumby having an issue, and so did PJ. That's the grid, and this is the race lead and the battle. It's going to be a move for Mark Tunick on Fancy, and although it was from quite far back, eventually with the battery it got there in the end quite safely. When it gets to a corner, there's not much risk. You either lift off or you put your foot in and have no battery, so an overtake is just kind of an overtake. That's what we're seeing yesterday. If you overtake, you can overtake at 75% throttle because the other car ahead has so little power, and it just doesn't make overtaking feel so real. Why would you go for a risky move if you can just charge through with extra power? Now we do see a split, as Mark Tunick has not been able to keep with the pack, and Fency's also going to be running out of tyres, running out of rubber, as they're on that soft tyre relative to the rest of the field. The top three are now splitting away. It's a different top three bar one from yesterday. I will repeat once more. It's Jericho Willis learning the lessons and looking to go for that top spot. But here we go. Eager Pro finding his way through all of a sudden. And Jericho Willis not really able to fight it at all. Well, they could have. As we can see, the battery is very much there. Looking at the graphic to see a better picture, we've got side-by-side action into turn one. Jericho Willis having to make a decision. Who does he follow through the corner, left or right? He cannot make a decision. Eager Pro on the right side. It's Sulkin on the inside now to the left of the screen, taking it to the grass to try and minimise that travel distance. But as we saw so many times yesterday, the outside line through turn 5 seems to be the more powerful option. Are they going to go for a double overtake into turn 6? They will not. They'll back off. They'll stay where they are. And they just continue to watch to try and spot a safer opportunity to go through. But that opportunity will not arise as the cars ahead are now single file. They do have a lot of battery now to play with Eager Pro and Sulkin, unless they were smart with it, may not be in the same situation. Fency, in the meantime, has made that move once again on Mark Tunick. But that soft tyre is going to have to be changed on that car very soon, I am sure. The battery being blasted, and Jericho Willis is making that statement. I saved earlier on whilst you guys fought. And there's the move back to P2. Will they go to P1 anytime soon? That's the question. As we start lap 7 out of 26, and that's our first time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Fency, unfortunately, getting one of the worst ones you can get during a race. So they will put on a fresh set of medium tyres. So they are going for a 2-stop here. As Eager Pro goes around the outside in the opening stage of the next lap, and it's contact. Jericho Willis is round, both drivers losing traction, and I think that's as racing incident as it gets. Tragic there for Jericho Willis, who will lose all of their progress. The Ferrari goes through, and down to P6 they go. Ah, the drama. I do not believe it. What we saw just then, Jericho Willis lost traction, had a snap, so did Igor. Contact was made. And unfortunately, spinning round goes one car and splitting up goes Sulkin and Igor. That's not their intention. That is Jericho Willis making that move once more. Now just behind the roof of X, they've got to watch out for the driver that was doing so well until that incident. Igor, in the meantime, has caught back up to Sulkin and will be in an attacking position once again. Mark Tunick hoping that his teammate does fight with Sulkin quite severely and brings them into the battle. Jericho Willis now left on their own to put laps in as they were yesterday. Just finding a little bit of a lazy apex there through turn 6. And 7, they keep it together and they continue to take chunks out of time from River X. Fancy actually coming out of the pit lane into some racing traffic, not traffic, but drivers on different strategies. They have had to make that one work. Jericho Willis, 40% battery, using it with the straight line mode. But battery is gone, and they lose all that power before they even get to Stowe Corner. And they'll have to wait. They go into the pit lane instead. Sulkin and Igor not going into the pit lane. We saw yesterday how powerful the overcut can be. And Jericho Willis also made a statement saying that his tyre wear should be better than the rest of the field. He is just able to manage it in this early phase of the game. A good call. Will it pay off for the American? Schindler also going into the pit lane. And that's another 10-second time penalty, this time for the Alpine of Alzora. Fancy will jump the 2 drivers. So Jericho Willis has, of course, dropped back a bit, but Fancy did get that overcut. So it's not all over just yet. There's the Alpine car, but we do just get to see a quick look at the Audi. An onboard would be nice if we can. An onboard racing would be great, but not a bad livery from the game's point of view in the cockpit here. But the race leading livery is this one. And it is Eager Pro in the Aston Martin. It will switch all of a sudden to Sulkin as they charge through. And would that suggest, with that much deployment being used in one blast, Sulkin's coming into the pit lane? They will not. Igor will react, and that is going to be very, very difficult for Sulkin to deal with, as PJ retires in the pit lane just up in front. Hopefully that causes no issues for the Serbian. For that reason, we will actually stay on board just to double check. We haven't had any pit lane issues since F1 21, I believe. Where in 2020 and 2019 we used to see some regular bugs. Retiring the pit lane would cause some drop pit issues. Eager Pro jumps in front of Jericho Willis, but does stay behind Fancy. So Fancy making a very good undercut. Will their tyres make it to the end? No. But they will be putting on fresh tyres once more. They do have to push with all their might to make this one work, however. Jericho Willis, on the other hand, 6 seconds back, so still missing out after that spin. Will Eager Pro push for it now, using the battery to defend is Fancy, who's also, by the way, running out of fuel in this race so far. Will they be saving enough to take it to the end of the Grand Prix? And going for the overtake into the final chicane is going to be the Aston Martin. They have the battery, and there is no response from the Mercedes. No answer to the question of will Igor make it through. We know, because it's happened. Mark Tunick now leads the race for the first time, as we see Sulkin dive into the pit lane, and they will get undercut, but not by much. And that's worked out very, very well. Sulkin will have a bit of a tricky situation, as the battery will not be optimal for them on this outlap. But it doesn't mean they can't still be involved. 3-second time penalty for the Mercedes driver, now 13 seconds of time penalties, being in front but just kind of bunching the pack up, not intentionally, just don't seem to have the straight line speed to be able to do anything about it. Eager Pro tentative around the outside. The switchback is available though, and they're going to look at trying to make that move into Maggots and Beckett's, and they will keep their foot in it. We saw it a few times yesterday. It's now an overtaking spot that we would never have seen before, unless it was the final lap or opening lap of the Grand Prix. It's lap 11, and we've just seen an overtake through Maggots and Beckett's. Once again to the inside is the Mercedes. Igor looks to cut back. Solkin is still there, and not quickly through the corner is the Mercedes, so they cannot go for the switchback. They will go deep into the corner. That opens up a perfect line for Igor relative to the silver arrow, and Solkin watches Igor take the lead. So Rafa goes through the pit lane. Angelico Willis will get an extra position once more, 4.8 seconds away from Solkin at this point, hoping that the race leaders continue to battle it out. Mark Trunick going for the very, very long strategy. Reflex P6 on their own at this stage. That's Fancy, who has just dropped behind. Solkin not in a position to make that move. As I do want to have a quick look and see how it's going between Gary and Cravato. For now, we'll stay with this top three. When will we see Fancy go back into the pit lane for some more tyres? We will see Solkin go for the move. And I don't think the Mercedes is going to have much to answer with, but they will still challenge nicely by the time they get to the corner. And that's another time penalty for another driver. Mark Tunick speeding in the pit lane, 10 seconds. 3 drivers today have done that. We got away with it yesterday for the most part. But welcome to Silverstone, the slightly slower pit lane than most circuits. And you do see some struggles from a few. Now Jericho Willis will once again get another position. They go to P4. Gravato and Gary M racing out on track. Gary M, multiple seasons in LSI, gaining that experience over years ago. Last race in, I think, F1 22. Back in 2020, 2021 and 2022. Taking that break and coming back today to give it their best shot. Gravato yet to complete their first full season in LSI, as they joined midway through the last F1.5 championship. But nonetheless, both drivers with different backgrounds having a nice battle on track. As we speak, Gravato runs away. Gary does not seem to have an answer, but they do have a lot of battery, so can they do something differently? That's the question. The top 3 continuing. It's just not the McLaren involved, but they do have pace, and they did go for that undercut. They have 1 lap extra on Eager Pro, and 2 laps extra on Solkin. A bit heavier of an undercut is Fancy, but they do have those different tyres. It's side by side between the two ahead, and Solkin, although trying to keep it around the outside, did end up making contact with Igor there. And Igor just lost that momentum because of it. And they will just have to wait behind. Gary once again catches up to Gravato. Coming the halfway of this race. Still a way to go, but the opportunities become less and less as the laps count down. Will there be an opportunity into the chicane? There will be, so way before the corner. Pro braking as late as they can, locking up those rears, getting that rotation, finding instability on the following corner, possibly as a symptom of that late braking manoeuvre. Sulkin's still going to try and send it down the inside, and they will do so. This allows them both to brake slightly away from Fency and behind. And once more, as we saw last lap, they will go side by side through turn 5. This time Sulkin will have a very nice advantage, and Egobro can't do anything about that one. Gary, once again, back behind Cravato. But now we want to have a look. They're not in a position to go racing. Sulkin is ahead up front. 3.2 seconds now. We have Fency away, who dives back into the pit lane for their next set of tyres. Jericho Willis, who was in an attacking position, gets unleashed and now tries to hunt down the top two. 4.4 seconds. They've gained about a second over the last period. Now Fency serving that 10-second time penalty. Still staying in this race though, which if they do so, it's a good idea because they can save quite a lot of time by just gaining experience and continuing in the race. You might as well get it in real time, as they have no one too close by to fight with, but Shinde is up ahead and on fresh tyres. They might have a chance at attacking. They have gone for another set of hards. I see another set. They started on the softs, they went to the mediums, and now they're choosing the white wall tyre. As they get pretty creative. Creative it is for Sulkin, going at the inside line on Stowe Corner. Not really creative, but this is going to be creative to keep it ahead and then go side by side once again in the next chicane. They do not so. Just not knowing what's going to happen. That is the excitement of this battle. We've got Jericho Willis, who makes half a second in about a lap. And they are, at this rate, very much in the chance for victory. They just have to stay away from track limits. We've seen one driver extends the track limits to get a 3-second time penalty. And we've seen 3 drivers get a 10-second time penalty for speeding. As Igor stays behind. Fency makes the move as Shinde goes into the pit lane. And that's our second 3-second time penalty of the evening. Lap 17 out of 26. This battle continues, and all of a sudden the top 2 break away from Jericho Willis. Don't think that really puts down Jericho Willis's pace right now at the moment, because it's still very impressive. Fency with the fastest lap of 30.120. 185 from Jericho, and then a 263 and a 210 from Igor and Sulkin respectively. So not far away at all. Marchunik doesn't have a bad lap time relative to the race leaders either. It's not about your fastest lap time from earlier on, it's about your lap times now. Jericho Willis is hoping that their tyres will take them to the end of the Grand Prix nicely and maybe have the advantage towards the end of the race. 26 is the final one. Lap 18 is what we're currently on, so they will be running out of time. 8.5 laps to go in this Grand Prix. Cravazzo and Gary M now are definitely switching it up on track, as Gary M is the driver ahead, the driver to beat. We're on the wrong onboard, there you go. And we want to try and stick with these guys for a bit to see what the racing is going to be like between the two. The LSI legend versus the LSI up-and-comer. Taking it a little bit experimentally through Cops Corner. I'm sure they're aware that they shouldn't do that too often. Cravazzo is going to want to go for that move and at least have it by the end of the race, but they're going for it now. Ready, Stowe Corner is the call and the action is made. Diving into the pit lane, that is an interesting one. Straight into the pit lane for Gary M, as Cravazzo will allow it to pass through Sulkin and Jericho Willis, who will continue to fight. Sorry, Sulkin and Igor looking like they're almost making contact as they went side by side through turn 7. A perfect camera angle, getting the traction out of turn 8, but the battery and the power from the Red Bull just overestimating or overriding any kind of ability of the Aston Martin at this stage of the race. And Jericho Willis, the gap is fluctuating at this point, kind of staying where it is, not doing anything more than that. So Jericho is hoping as the laps go by, the tyres wear down and they see their advantage increase. It's not the case yet. As they switch positions, and once again they'll do it. They go side by side. I think they've almost been side by side every single lap through this chicane. And Sulkin looks for the switchback, but will not get there this time. The yellow for just a brief period, nothing too much to worry about. Side by side, down the straight. And on the inside line through 7. Charging through Stowe. Can they do anything? Is that rain or am I seeing things? I think I must be seeing things. No, I'm not. Is that wet weather that we're about to witness? Lap 20 out of 26. Would it explain why we're getting a variation of tyres? I'm still not convinced. And would we even see the weather be bad enough for rain to actually require a pit stop? No, there's no rain. I think it's just me looking at the clouds and assuming the worst. We don't need to worry. Although it would be a good experiment to see how wet weather would be with this regulation. Gary into the pit lane again. And onto the intermediates. And it is raining. A bit early to go onto that tyre though. I'm not entirely sure what their intentions are with that. Sulkin goes through. And they continue. Around the outside they look. Is it going to be possible? It is. It is going to be possible. And Igor realises now, more than ever, they have to time it right to be ahead. Because if neither driver pits and they stay out, it's going to be impossible to overtake in wet conditions. So having that advantage of track position would be essential. Now, the situation that they're in. If they pit, Jericho Willis will not pit. And then Jericho Willis will win the race. So effectively, Sulkin and Igor have to stay out in these dry conditions until Jericho Willis makes a pit stop or the weather gets bad enough that everyone has to make a pit stop. Even Mark Tunick at this stage, even though 8 seconds extra back, could be a threat to their race victory if they were to make a pit stop. They will pass the lap car, and Sulkin stays in front. Igor doing a dummy to the pit lane, not really convincing themselves in going, but trying to see what Sulkin might do. If Sulkin pits, they want to be ready and react. But they do have to remember once more, Jericho Willis behind is matching the pace. But if they are allowed to run free, they will do so. That's their best chance at taking victory here today. The lap times of Gary M is not really representing the wet tyre very well. Igor sticking it out on the long way around at Copse Corner. You wouldn't have expected that one. That's surely not on the bingo card. And Sulkin once again sits behind. You can see those tyres are getting pretty greasy now, but to be on lap 24 out of 26 and still be out on track, there is no reason to make a pit stop. We will continue to the end of this Grand Prix on our slick tyres. And now the wall of it, Gary M in front. We'll watch the slick tyres be faster, or will they? As Sulkin finds a moment. Getting into the following corner, will Egapro have the grip? They do get the front end turned in. And these drivers do seem faster than the McLaren. Now, what we're really waiting for in whether we should determine if it's going to be wet conditions or not is whether the game tells you that the boost is disabled. But you can see Although, for a moment, Eagle was losing a lot of pace, and Gary M was to keep the car nice and straightforward. It was looking like it might be a wet tyre that has the advantage, but going through the next few corners, all the way through Copse Corner, you can really tell that actually the slick does still have it, and they're good to go. Jericho Willis with that unfortunate incident, and they will not be rewarded. It's going to be side by side as Sulkin gives it everything. We're not even on the penultimate lap yet, and we've still got more racing to go. Sulkin, the inside line at turn 1 once more. A repeat of a series that we will get here in Silverstone. Series 5, Episode 1, Round 1, the British Grand Prix. And these two duel it out, as they have done before in LSI F1. They're not strangers to one another. They're not strangers to winning either. Jericho Willis did lose a lot of pace for a moment, but then all of a sudden has caught back up again. But their situation will not have an answer at all. Anyone behind, and Gary's tyres have not had an answer either. Although they are staying in front of their teammate right now before being a lap down. Or sorry, they're staying behind, so maybe those tyres are working out for Gary in the end after all. The penultimate lap of the Grand Prix is coming to a close. You really think about where you're going to position your car for the final moments to award that killer blow to your opponent. For Eagle's sake, it's going to be in the form of a defence and an attack for Sulkin. Oh! And Egapro loses the car in the tricky conditions, will completely cut the final turn to allow Sulkin to swoop through. It's not over until it's over, but I don't know if we will see the Serb come back from that one. The Aston Martin now losing their confidence a little bit with that big slide. Sulkin able to continue. They just have to be cautious, and a 6/10 margin might just be enough. Both drivers having the battery to deploy, they will be able to use everything still in these wet conditions. It's not going to be easy. Jericho Willis praying that something drastic happens. I don't think it will. But Sulkin leading, now 5/10. Igor on a late charge, still sees it in their sights. The battery is limited. Sulkin has a huge advantage. Maggots, Beckett and Chappell down the hangar straight. What's it gonna be? Sulkin or Igor? Blue or green? And the Aston Martin just plummets down on the straight with no battery available. Sulkin has done it. After yesterday, a disappointment. They round the next few corners to take a hard-fought victory. Lap after lap, they will be rewarded once more. Sulkin wins in Silverstone, and Egapro will have to settle in second. It's going to be Jericho Willis who will take that third spot in the end. It's Mark Tunick who comes around the final few corners, and I believe they will keep that P4 as Ruffer X. No, they will not. It's Ruffer X who will take P4 on debut. It's Cravato who's going to finish in P6, and then Frenzy followed by Shinde. And Gary M a lap down, but still scoring a point or two, and Sunby will get a point as well to their name. Alzera unfortunately missing out, but still making it to the end of the Grand Prix. One DNF yesterday, one DNF today. I think everybody should be proud of that one. Both retirements were also in the pit lane. What a race. Such a shame to have that loss of traction. We didn't get to quite see it side by side in the final lap as we were hoping to. But still a story to tell. Much closer between the front runners today than it was yesterday. Even though it was a fairly similar story of them just following each other at an even pace. It's Sulkin on top once more. And there they are, taking the podium. It's Sulkin in P1 with Igapro in P2, Jericho Willis, Riffa X, Mark Tunic and Cravato, Shinde Iru in P7, Fancy in P8. Really not the way they wanted to finish that race after a great performance. Gary M in P9, Sambi in P10. And not scoring a point is Alzera, but still getting some good laps in. DNFing earlier on was PJ. The race director is on your screen now, and we go through the incident section just in case. And we'll go through the pit stop section, and we'll see you in a bit for the post-race interviews. Hello everyone and welcome to the post-race interviews of the British Grand Prix. That was a hell of a race. Side-by-side action all the way to the flag that we didn't quite get yesterday. But a good turnaround for sure, and we interview Sulkin, who was right in the battle. Well, that's got to be a lot better than yesterday, right? You weren't stuck in all the fighting at the beginning. Although you were in the battle, you were leading the pack, which definitely helps a lot.
Yeah, well, at the start it was really well. I finally have some pace. I've talked with someone who knows the regs a bit better than I do, so we just went to the track and he told me what to do and where to push battery and recharge. Because yesterday my battery deployment was not optimal. And yeah, by leading the pack, I was managing to stay out of trouble. So sadly, Igor and Jericho having an incident. I feel sorry for Jericho to be the one who turned out bad in that incident, but he had really quick pace. I think we were almost matching in pace. I think I was a bit quicker, but I couldn't really see because me and Igor were swapping so much. But when I was in front, I saw I was pulling away from Jericho, but as soon as Igor came in front of me, I just dropped back because he was charging battery because he used so much to overtake me. So it's hard to judge where to overtake and how to do it efficiently in these rigs.
Yeah, it's part of the skill, and I guess it keeps you in it, but at the same time it can bite you pretty hard if you get it wrong. But well done, a massive turnaround from yesterday. So we didn't want to go onto the wet tyres. Were you tempted at all? Do you think maybe one extra lap would have maybe changed your mind?
No, not really. The dry line was very good throughout the whole track, except the last corners. It's really hard there because you want to be as early as you can on the battery, but you're also turning so the rears are really unstable. So I just held on and I tried to do my best at the last corner at the last lap, and it worked. So I was lucky to get past Igor, who was pushing battery, I guess, and made a mistake, and I could just push and win the race. So no, the intermediates was not in my plan, but at the start when I heard Mark talking about the rain coming down in 10-15 minutes when it was lap, I think 6, I decided to stay a bit longer than I would rather do on the mediums because I thought it was gonna come earlier than it did. So yeah, it was not worth extending that much that I did, but luckily I had fresher tires than Igor and I managed to catch right back up to him when I came out of the pits. So yeah, it was a good race, strategy wise and ERS wise.
Congratulations, what a turnaround. Very happy for you, Sulkin. Well done today, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks mate.
And I believe that's it. Thank you very much for watching. We will see you next weekend for the Belgian Grand Prix, in sync with the Belgian Grand Prix for Formula 1. So everybody will feel like they are Formula 1 drivers for sure. Thank you very much once again, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.